You are listening to the Wholesome Way podcast, hosted by Alexander Lobb. Please keep in mind, everything shared in this podcast is for inspiration only and shouldn't be taken as medical or professional health advice. If you're making changes to your health routines or lifestyle, please check in with our qualified health professional first. This episode will begin in 30 to 60 seconds. During that time, you're going to hear a few words from two of our very generous sponsors of the show with some pretty awesome offers. So listen to this. And now, on with the episode. Welcome back, Wholesome Wayfinders, to the Wholesome Way podcast. Today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with PL and Kristen Meindertsma, an inspiring couple. I hope I said that right.
You said it like probably the best we've ever heard it pronounced. So very good.
Yeah, fantastic. PL and Kristen Meindertsma are an inspiring couple behind Cycle 5 to Survive, a purpose-driven mission to cycle across 5 continents in 5 years while raising $2.5 million for charities, creating real impact around the world. So far, they've traveled more than 20,000 kilometers across 3 continents and just finished raising $1.25 million, which is an incredible feat in itself so far. All through a unique model where 100% of donations are going to these community projects across those 5 charities. And this journey of theirs, it's blending endurance, adventure, philanthropy, human connection in a very unique way, using cycling not just as a challenge, but as a vehicle to uplift communities through education, opportunity. And their next, which we'll get into, their next expedition, which is Pamoja Safari. Pamoja, am I saying that right? Yeah. About to take them nearly 7,000 kilometers from the top of Africa to Cape Town. And today they are joining us to share what they've learned about resilience, purpose, and really building a meaningful life through service and a collective action together. PL and Kristen, welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have you on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great to meet you.
Amazing.
And may I say, the way you introduced us, I'm glad that's recorded because I may use that because that was very well done.
Absolutely. You're very welcome to.
You're a pro.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I always love to start on taking, if you can, with the journey, the start of the journey. Can you take us back to where this whole journey began for you both, either separately or together? Love to hear both sides of that. What was happening in your lives that made you feel that there had to be something more than this, cycle of, we'll use the word cycle again, cycle of life that we all get caught up in sometimes and forget, what really matters in life. So yeah, please take me back.
Well, I think you've kind of laid it out nicely for me to start in that. I'm a partner in a business and started from the ground up, and just the growth of the company, and just with me being kind of one of the main people responsible for it, I was getting to a point where I was working 70, 80 hours a week. And it wasn't just like for a year, but it was for multiple years, to a point where I'm like, I don't know if I can keep this up. Why am I doing this? The business is going well. Like, when this all comes to an end, like, what have I done this for? And I really started to struggle with just having no balance, not knowing why I'm doing what I'm doing. That I was encouraged by this guy, was a industrial psychologist. He's a guy that works with CEOs and business people. And he said, go on a retreat and just get away and just think. And I'm Dutch, so I'm very logical. And I'm like, okay, and what should I think about? He's like, well, whatever comes to mind. And I'm like, okay, and how long should I sit for? And he goes, well, as long as it takes. So those two by themselves are quite obstacle for me. So I went on a retreat, and long story short, I ended up sitting on my back patio, and I was looking at the landscape, and there was this enormous rock, and it must have been the size of like a 3-story house. And the place is called Boulder. It's a resort in the US. And eventually I kind of like, I think I want to be like that rock. It's so big, it's so powerful, it has so much potential, but yet it's sitting there completely still. I'm like, how can I be still and still be strong and have all this potential? So I wrote down an equation that was basically patience plus purpose equals peak performance. And I started to define what patience looked like for me. I started to define what purpose looked like for me, and then define what peak performance would look like for me. And that would have been probably 7 years ago or so. And so I tried to figure out what patience looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you can't force patience. It has to happen. So eventually I got impatient of being patient. That I thought, maybe I'll try the second part and try and figure out what my purpose is. And during that time, we had driven our son across the country to drop him off at university. And we do a local charity here called Terry Fox. He's a pretty iconic gentleman here who ran marathons on one leg across Canada. Anyways, we weren't going to be there. So I thought, maybe I'll do a solo bike packing trip across one of the provinces, about 1,000 kilometers by myself, in honor of this charity and raise some money. So on the way back, my wife dropped me off, and I bike packed my first bike packing trip. Now we were cyclists, so I was strong enough to do this. So set out, and I remember coming back, and my wife met me, and I said, I think I want to do more of these bike packing trips. I think they need to become a little bit more bigger. Then fast forward a few more years, I turned 50, my wife turned 55, and I thought, maybe now's the time to create something. And I thought, I have a marketing background, so I'm like, well, maybe 5 bike rides, 5 years, 5 continents. So, the goal has to be a SMART goal, so it's got to be measurable. So I had to add a financial amount to that. And originally it was $500,000 and 5 different charities. And that's where Cycle 5 was born. Now, as we get into the podcast, you ask more questions, it will unfold from this point, because originally it was, we're going to do 1 ride, 1 charity, and $100,000. But it evolved from there. So I won't let the cat out of the bag until you ask more questions or you want to know how it evolved. But anyways, that's where the whole purpose-driven initiative started.
Yeah, wonderful. And I love what you said about taking the time to define. I think these sort of important things, like, what does purpose mean for me? What does purpose and what does patience mean for me? It means something else for everyone else. So it's important to do that, to be able to, I guess, move forward and find meaning and define what you're good at. Even people don't even know what they're good at. So I love that. Thanks for giving me the background there, TL. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Kristen, I'd love to hear your side of that journey as well. I know you had a background in education, used to be a PE teacher, is that right?
Yeah. I just recently gave up my contract, so I think retirement for us, it's not that we aren't going to work, it's just for me specifically, needed more flexibility in the schedule. And so I let my contract go, and I still am a substitute teacher when I can. I'm still coaching as well, so I'm still tied to my former school. But at the time it was, interesting. Like, our kids were just starting I guess in high school there. And, he's extremely driven, and I'm driven in a different way, but I'm way more chill. And so to see him work like that and be so literally burnt out to the point where I just want to quit, I thought, it's gotta be like, that's not good either. So when this had come out, now the thing with PL is when he verbalizes it, it's usually been multiple days, months, years spiraling in his head. So when it comes out, then I'm thinking, oh boy, like, if he's saying it, it means it's probably going to happen. So when he mentioned that and he said it to me, and I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Like, I'm just like, okay, because I'm not thinking too far ahead of what that actually would look like. I'm just going along for the ride. This will be great. And so it was literally that I was just like, sure. I mean, like he said, we met on bikes. So for us to ride together, that's one of the gifts that we've been given, is to be able to do that together. And so I think that's almost when we do our best work, is when we're together on the bikes that we have found. So to me, it was more like an adventure, and a little bit naive too, but kind of exciting at the same time, thinking, okay, that's going to be fun. And yeah. And then here we are getting ready for year 4.
Amazing. And I know, so it all started so Cycle 5 to Survive started in 2022. Is that right?
Yeah, we're now
Officially kicked off.
we're starting year 4, so 3 years ago. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So that was the first ride. That was the first ride.
First ride, gotcha. So
This ride is 2023, and then Europe. Sorry, North America was 23, Europe was 24, South America was 25, and now Africa we're in 26.
Gotcha. So you're just over halfway, I guess, like almost 2/3, right?
Yeah.
You've raised 1.25 million, so over half of your goal, which is now 2 million, which is amazing. Throughout the first 3 years, what were sort of like the challenges that you came across, whether it was just purely to do with the rides together, as a partnership with your family? Was there any sort of challenges or points where you thought, oh, I don't know, like, I can't see this finishing? Like,
I'll just start, and then you can talk about South America. Like, I think each year there's been a different type of challenge, and definitely as a couple, like I said, when we're on the bikes, it's pretty great, but we are also so unique and different in how we deal with stress or deal with challenges, that when you're on the bike together in these types of trips, you're forced to deal with them a little bit differently. Like when we're at home, I can go do my thing, he can go do his thing, or we can hash it out and then whatever. But when you're in the middle of a forest and you've got nobody else to rely on but each other, it challenged us in how we communicate or how we deal with those I guess obstacles that come along. So each year it's been something different, but most recently I would say we kind of hit the wall in the first part of South America.
Yeah, I mean, going back a little bit to our first ride, kind of adding on to her story, that she's easygoing and that she's pretty laid back, whereas I'm a little more focused. And getting her involved in some of the trip planning, she was like, no, it's okay, you plan it. And what ended up happening was that every morning she would say, so where are we going today? And I'm like, well, I'm not sure. She's like, well, like, do we need food, water? I'm like, well, I don't have that kind of detail. And so over time, we realized, and then I would take a wrong turn. And then she might say, oh, like, didn't that pop up on your computer? So I felt a lot of pressure to ensure that I was communicating things. And over time, it became a bit of a bitter point where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to tell you where we're going because I really don't know. I know we're going to try and do about 100K. I know this is the road. I don't know the surface. I don't know where the stops are. I don't know where we're staying. Like, we're bike packed. We can sleep anywhere. So that was probably where we first learned that in the planning part, we both have to have an active role in the planning, just so that we know how to manage each other's expectations. And we know who has the roles and responsibilities. It's not healthy for one person to carry all the responsibilities and allow the other person to tag along and have the freedom to then challenge the decisions that have been made when you're in a situation where you now can't change those. Like, they should have been changed before the ride. So I think that's the first thing we learned, where you get the route and the map, and you're way more involved. So that's gotten significantly better, and I think it's improved our riding as well. Because I'll miss something. She's like, I thought we're supposed to turn back there. I'm like, oh yeah, right, thanks. So that's definitely improved.
But we definitely hit the wall the first part of South America. We ended up doing it in 2 parts. When we hit Peru, we had up to that point, I think we had major mechanicals, were stranded for 2 weeks, and then I was hospitalized. I got sick.
Whoa.
And so then you were like, I think I'm done. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, we were gone for 2 months, and we'd had maybe covered 2,000 or 3,000 kilometers because I had a broken derailleur. I can't remember, my front fork broke, and then we were flying. In one town we're in, it flooded, roads were washed out, so we actually had to fly out to get out of this one little community. They had record rainfalls. This is right near the Amazon forest, and like 20, 40 centimeters, whatever, of rain. And so anyways, it was just terrible. And then when we got into Peru, she got a bacterial infection, so she's vomiting and the whole work. So she ended up in a hospital with IV and antibiotics.
Wow.
And then you start to wonder, like, why are we doing this? Like, it's no fun. It was probably the worst 2 months of riding like we'd ever done. We couldn't get into a rhythm. 40 degrees Celsius with like 90% humidity. Right. It was terrible.
yeah.
So we came back.
Yeah. And all of that stuff happens when you bike pack. It's not that any of that is unheard of. I just think for us, we had one little sort of time constraint in there, and then this just happened, and we found ourselves thinking we're not going to be able to really we can't get where we need to get. So we were both the one night, just thinking, okay, let's go to bed. And when we wake up, we're both going to say what we think. And the next morning we both looked at each other and said, I think we should go home. And then I just start crying. I'm like, yeah, like,
we're both crying because
yeah,
you feel like you're letting people down, because
yeah.
These are not trips that we planned on in terms of it being a bucket list thing. It is a vehicle to try and change lives around the world. So you've got people who have supported you and charities that are cheering for you and followers and those kind of things, right? So it was, I mean, I broke down in tears as well, because I didn't know how to manage my emotions at that time, thinking that, is this the end of it?
Yeah.
But there's a silver lining to all this, of course, because we finished the continent, and that was probably the last month we went through Patagonia. And it was probably the best month of cycling we'd ever done.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right. So totally
complete 180.
180. So
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. It shows you like what you can do when you just persevere and you just push through. There's always, that the light at the end of the tunnel, the silver lining. You put in the work and you really get really, really low, but then there's always an upside waiting for you. Yeah, love that. Incredible story. And what was the real, like, the turning point there that really got you, like, that pushed you forward? The little things, like the daily things that really pushed you forward through those difficult times. It could be recent times that you've had that as well. Yeah,
I think probably the biggest effect for us when we are out there on the road and we're lost. We got so lost in Europe, like the routes fairly new that we were following, and then it's in forestry roads, so that changes from year to year. So you're in the middle of this kind of forest with trees all around, and it says you should be in the middle of a road, and we're looking at each other and we're exhausted and we're just so frustrated. And I remember doing a little bit of a video, and so we send our media back home, and it got back home, and before we knew it, the charities were taking videos and encouraging us and then sending them back. So then we were getting these posts from these charities saying, we know it's hard, but you guys, and like where we're going in Africa in particular, there's kids chanting Cycle 5, and they've got a poster, and you get that, and you just, again, tears because you're exhausted, and they're like, oh yeah. And so that it reminds you that it is more than us. One of the other charity leaders, every time he's doing this crazy climb, he's Swiss, and he's like, it's for the children, and he just yells it out, and I just like, it's for the children. So I would say for me, it's been the charities. Just when you remember that it's, as much as it's about us finding purpose, we have committed to a goal to help these charities. And so you just, suck it up and get up the next day and keep pedaling. Or you take a day, or you take a day off and you rest and you go, you know what, we're just going to take a day here. So yeah.
That, and I think when you're kind of by yourself all the time and you're in countries where you don't speak the language, it's amazing how you talk about the little things. Somebody just making a comment like, way to go, whether it's on some social media platform or on Strava. And it's kind of like, oh, like people are actually watching. Like this is actually something people are noticing. And it's like, you're not doing it alone. And we're not forgotten. Even though people may not say anything, it's when they say something, that's when you're like, okay, I think I got another one in me. and when you're down, it doesn't take a lot to get lifted up. Like it's almost like it takes more to bring us down than to lift us up, and it's little things.
That's beautiful. So heartwarming. I was getting chills when you were telling me that. so it is. It really is those little things, those little comments, and I think reminding yourself that support is always there. You know, there's always going to be someone. You just got to open yourself up to it and reach out. You know, reach out to people. You know, a lot of people are hurting with mental health these days, and you know, a study just came out in Australia, and I think $8 million is being spent across the country for payments to help people with mental health. And it's just, it's people are really struggling, I think, with loneliness. And I think part of that, what you alluded to, PL, is just reaching out to people, and as you said, you know, Kristen, like sending things to people, like not being afraid to, hey, this is what I'm doing. It's really tough, you know. It's really important to spread what you're doing and to get help when you need it. I think so. Yeah, it's a beautiful
and I think along that lines, when you share that you're hurting, somebody else then kind of feels like, oh, I can actually help them, and it kind of takes you out of your own funk sometimes. So you start to see, like, maybe you do a little bit of a comparison, but people feel good when they can help. And so we've been very vulnerable on these trips, and he's learning a little bit more to be more vulnerable about what's happening with him, you know, internally, and this whole being a businessman kind of, and I know we'll get into that, but it does, I think, allows other people to step in and help, which takes them out of their funk. And I think that's part of that mental health journey, that where we can do that together. And you know, if I'm always going around, oh, everything's great, life is always great, and nothing's ever hard, if somebody's struggling, they're not going to feel so open to sharing, because my life is great, which we know is not reality. But so we've been learning to be very authentic in everything that we do. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, being, especially online, just being authentic as you can. That's what I try and do with the podcast. It's like I'm trying to be transparent, try and, you know, ask authentic, genuine questions, and really show the side that people that people want to see, you know, that vulnerability, you know, because we are all human and we all make mistakes and we're all not perfect. So it's I think that's a really good reminder for sure. I wanted to touch on like the charity side of things. Obviously it's incredibly noble and admirable of you both to do this really grueling, you know, work, obviously, that you love, but it's obviously comes with a cost. We were talking before that you both are nursing some injuries right now before your next trip to Africa. So obviously it comes with the physical toll, the mental toll. So it's incredibly inspiring that you're doing that. But I'd really love to hear and more about the charities, you know, the 5 charities, how you went through to select those, and the people that you've met, and just what you've learned being really involved with these charities. Because the reason I ask that is because I know a lot of listeners, and even including myself, you know, are very, very skeptical about charities. And links and sending money, and oh, is it really going there? And I do a lot of fundraising myself for mental health through sports. I do high rocks and push-ups and push-up challenges and all that for charity. But I think people really struggle with the the authenticity side of like, where's my money actually going? So I'd love to maybe bust that myth if we can somehow from your experience, obviously in business, PL, and education. Yeah, Kristen.
Yeah.
So
that's a great question, because we struggle with that as well. So when we set up to how we were going to set this up, it was very intentional with how we decided to do that.
Yeah. When I'm going to kind of start midway and then we'll go back to the beginning. At one point, when we had all of our charities picked, we had a very candid discussion where I shared with them, I said, I am trusting my reputation that you guys are going to do what you say you're going to do. And then they looked at me and they said, well, you know that we're doing the same with you. I said, well, fair enough. Because we've asked them to do a few things. Now I'm going to go back to the very, very beginning a little bit with how we picked the charities. 3 of the 5 charities are founded by people that we know that are here locally, and we have supported personally along the way, and we know people on the board. 2 of the charities that came alongside that we did not know the founders of, we know business people. I know the accountant for one of them, and I know the chair of some of the boards. So we vetted them that way. We also had a philanthropy consultant, a guy called Peter, not Peter Thor, another guy, who actually went through CRA, and I guess there's local sites where you can vet the financials of these charities to ensure the legitimacy of them. So these charities that we're supporting, they're not like massive global charities. They're all founded by individuals who are still the active participants in there. 2 of them are larger than that, but that's how it's started. So the vetting process.
Yeah. And then we were also very specific that we weren't raising money for just this whole charity and they could decide where it went. So we then went back to them and we said, because our
mission statement
is creating cycles of opportunity through business, sport, or education. So business, although he was a teacher when we met, I'm in education and we met through sport. So we felt that those 3 pillars are just really valuable in creating change, in breaking cycles. So then we said, okay, within your organization, can you figure out one thing that you would like us to raise money for that falls within those 3 pillars? And so each charity has a very specific thing that we are raising money for. And so then then once the money goes there, they then give us an impact report at the end of each year. So we have numbers, we can tell you exactly where the money went, exactly how many kids or things or whatever happened. And we can provide all of that with you. Like everything is really transparent. And then I would say the most important thing, well, one of the things we're most proud of is, PL, we had all the charities together. They all came and we came together and we sort of had like a whole day, like a business development day. And it was really cool to see them come together, which from what we've been told is virtually unheard of. For 5 different charities to come and share best practices and share ideas and brainstorm how they can multiply what we're going to bring in. And so, and then we said, because we are virtually doing all the work, we would love for you to waive your administrative fees. And after however many conversations back and forth, they did that. So it literally is 100% give. We self-fund and underwrite everything. So every dollar that comes in each year, 20 cents goes to the 5 charities each year. So whatever comes in this year gets divided up 5 ways, and each charity, they share it, whatever we bring in. So it really is literally journeying together, which is Pamoja Safari. It is that. So we have done a ton of work to make it so obvious and so clear cut and connected and networked that it's not just random by any means.
And the approach I took was like a business. So we have our core values, we have our mission statement. I wanted impact reports, and when we go and visit, so we have been boots on the ground for every one of our charities except Africa, so we can see the students, we can see the women who are getting the microfinance, and we can see the schools. Like, we have literally visited the places where our money is going, and I am just as much invested in making sure the money goes where it is, probably more so because we're underwriting. I mean, if someone were to try and figure out the math of flights to and from, replacement of bike parts, foods, accommodations for 3 years on the road, plus we donate a match campaign ourselves financially, plus the time we take off work, plus the events that we miss, the time and treasure and talents that we've committed to this, I am completely aligned with anybody who is skeptical to ensure that if someone's getting screwed, I'll be the first one to feel it. Right. And I say that with as much passion as possible.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I love that that mantra: time, treasure, and talents. Yeah, that's a good one. The 3 T's. But yeah, I think it's really admirable and amazing to see how you've just been able to blend, contribution to communities, movement, like through cycling, and also the business side, right? You've really been able to balance that out. And I think a testament to that is how you're able to bring 5 different charities that's unheard of. Like, that's I haven't heard that either. So that's incredible that you've been able to do that. And I think it's a testament to you both and the contribution and the impact that you're having on this world. And it's very admirable. And I think, but when you actually do think about it, it is logical. It is because charities are all trying to make a difference in the world. Like, they're not shouldn't really be trying to compete with each other. We all have the same goal, whether it's over there in Africa or whether it's over there in Estonia, in Europe. We all have the same aligned goal. So the fact that you've been able to do that is just, it's very, very inspiring.
Yeah. And it's been cool to see now that we've been in 3 or 4 years. Originally, one of the charities decided that let's just share the funds each year. Like, it was going to be one charity one year. And they said, we want to stay involved for all 5. And so it came from them, which, again, like you said, it was just so refreshing to know that they were open. And then because of the nature of our charities, there's been some networking between them. And so, some of them are schooling kids until graduation through high school. Then one of them's a university where it's a pathways to peace. And then those kids are like, well, we want to volunteer. And so then they reach out to these other charities. And so there's been this collaboration or this growth and networking with as kids or people come through each of these initiatives. So I'm more excited for what happens down the road, maybe 10 years, to see full circle again, the impact and the what's the word? Like how it just multiplies.
The outcome,
it might be 5 students, but then the reach is even bigger than that. And we actually can give you data on that, which is pretty cool. So I don't know. I get excited about that kind of stuff.
I mean, she mentioned earlier about the money and the one charity saying we should collaborate. Because the original goal was to raise $500,000, $100,000 for each charity. We met with this lady who is in the philanthropic world and says, "You're going to do all that and only raise $100,000?" And I'm like, "I haven't raised $1." She's like, "Well, I want to challenge you and make that $500,000 every year. It's got a 5 in it. Think about it." And I'm like, "Well, I wouldn't know how to even raise 100,000, let alone $500,000 per year. So again, naively, I said, sure. If I believe in big goals and if you put your mind to it, anything's possible, let's go for it. But then I realized how difficult it was. So when I realized, I'm like, how am I going to do this? We got all the charities on a Zoom call, and I said, I need your help figuring out how to raise this money. And I could tell they all looked at me and said, and like they didn't say it. They looked at me like, no, that's what you're going to do. Like, we're not going to give you our contacts to help. Like, that's what you got to do. And I'm like, oh, shoot. And that's when one of the charities said, instead of you raising money for us in year one and then someone else year two, if your goal is 500,000 per year, why don't you give all of us 20% of whatever you raise, and we can all encourage you for all 5 years. And that was probably the best thing that ever happened, because if we would have to start over and build relationships with the charities every single year, it's a whole other layer. And emotionally, it takes a lot of work to get traction with the charity, to know who your contacts are, how do you get them to reshare, how do you get videos from them, those kind of things. So that was a real turning point in where we had all the charities. The other part that I think is pretty cool is when we first started, we had the one charity for the one ride, and we started telling people, and they all asked us, who are your other charities? We're like, oh, shoot, we better figure that out. And then through the vetting process, we had the 5 continents already. We had the 5 charities, and every charity we have is in one of the continents that we're cycling. That was not an intentional kind of like, we need someone in Africa, we need someone in Europe. Like, just through, like, once we layered on, we're like, holy cow, like, we can actually visit these charities on our rides. Like, that's crazy.
Oh, that's a crazy synchronicity. Yeah, it's just almost meant to be.
There's been a lot of that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow. And so I'd love to just talk a bit more about the charities and the rides. I'd love to really for you to both paint a picture of what it's like, like on the road, like coming into the charities. I know you've got the 5 charities. You've got Opportunity International, LCC University, IDE Canada, Hope for Cora, and Himalayan Life. So you've got those 5 charities. Tell us a bit more what it's like, being on the road and then visiting these charities, the people that you've met, and the perspectives, lessons that you've taken, from those experiences on the ground.
Yeah, it's interesting. They've all been quite unique. So, for example, we went to one of our charities in the DR, it's Aspire Women's Microfinancing, before we even kind of had planned the other charities or what the rides were going to be or anything. So we had an opportunity to go, and that was sort of random. We planned it within a week. It was pretty chaotic. And then we were on the ground, and it was just so inspiring to be there. And then we came home, and it's like, okay, we've just visited one charity. We haven't even done a ride yet. Like, it just really set everything in motion. And I think when you are like, we haven't joked, but we say, sometimes, like, if you have the means, it's really easy to write a check and send it off. But because we now we call it philanthropy in action, where we're actually doing something for this. And then when you meet the people, like, you just never forget that. Like, it's just, those are memories that you'll never forget. And when you see somebody who has literally benefited from that money that you gave them or the opportunity, and they're hugging you, it's just like, okay, of course I'm going to keep going. So that was a really unique opportunity. And then I would say Africa is going to be pretty special for its different reasons. So when we get there, but we actually had a chance after our first year with our founder to ride in Nepal. And again, that was sort of a last minute thing. We came back and we said, hey, I have this vision that I want to go visit the 5 locations of the charity, fully supported. So different. We were going with them. And he's like, it's five locations. So Gail's like, yes, it's 5.
Got a
Let's
5
go.
in it. We should do it.
Yeah. And I would say that probably had the most impact to this point, because we were following, like the founder was going, he was bringing these big checks of money that was raised. And so we were riding in, and they had a drone. He had a filmmaker come, and we were riding into this one school, and they're lined up for about 150 meters. They're all waving flags. And here we come on our bikes after being in the high Annapurnas. Like, we are literally in this beautiful area of Nepal. And we're riding in, and we're staying, like, we set our tent up in one of the classrooms, and we had a chance to speak to them. And, you know, it's just so foreign to us here if you never leave where you are, you just assume that this is what a majority of the world is like. And we are such a minority. And so when you get to go into these places where people who have so much less than you take you in, they feed you, they give you a place to sleep. And, you know, Piel likes to joke, here I am, this white rich guy riding in on my steed. And these people are, you know, struggling to survive, and they're taking care of you. And I don't know, like, it just puts your life in perspective. And I just don't feel like, if I wasn't doing this, I think I'd feel guilty, because I just have way too much. I don't need what I have. We don't. And so
We like it.
we love it. It's comfortable, but it's really good to go. And again, whether it's your time, your treasure, your talent, whatever you have, to just go and be there and do that. And I don't know, you come back changed. You just, it's hard to just come back and forget that that's how the world lives, and just go about your day. And so I think
Don't get us wrong. Having lots of stuff, there's nothing wrong with that.
no,
Right? We're not saying that, you know, we're changing our lifestyle. Like, all we're trying to do is gain some perspective, figure out a little bit more about who we are as humans, and what can we offer the rest of this world. Right? And we've been impacted by it. My business partner, even yesterday, had a meeting with him just about what things are like in my business and those kind of things. He's like, you have sacrificed a lot to do this. And I said, I know. And I said, there's times where I don't like it. I don't like the extent of the sacrifices, because it's so uncomfortable. And then I have to remind myself, it's because of how comfortable I am with the sacrifices I'm making. I know I'm doing the right thing. And again, this is the authentic part, where I don't want to come across as saying, oh yeah, you know, we're doing this. And like, it comes at an emotional toll, and it comes at a financial toll. But if you have the means to do with a little less, and you have the mental strength to push beyond this that comes to everyday life, the reward is worth it. And I have felt the rewards, but I've also felt the sacrifices. So, you know, they talk about, oh, you learn the most when you struggle or when you fail. That's so easy to say until you're the one that's in the dumps and you talk about mental health. Like, there's a reason why there's mental health, because it's hard to figure out how to get out when you're in it. But if you have the ability to get out from what you're struggling with and then share it, boy, that's powerful. So I think we're creating a very authentic story and a real journey that when we come out of this, we can tell people it's not easy, but take a look. Like, we're creating wakes and ripples that we don't even know when they're going to stop, right? So I know I'm preaching a little bit, but I want to make sure there's a counterbalance to the, you know, look at us go. Like, it's not as easy as it looks.
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's beautiful to hear those stories and what it's like, you know, underneath, because, you know, people love to see what's behind the highlight reel, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's important to show that. You mentioned vulnerability, and I think that's wonderful. I'd love to drill into a little bit more into that, PL, what you mentioned about, because in this podcast, I love to talk about bridging the gap between physical, mental and emotional well-being, because they are all connected. I think a lot of people see them as separate things, but they're all very much very much connected. And I'm sure that you have something to say about that, along your journey, merging movement and adventure, and we've talked about purpose and passion, your formula for personal growth. And so how what are those little pockets of mental techniques that you both personally use in the context of pushing yourselves physically, and how that impacts you mentally and emotionally along the way, and what sort of rituals or practices you might have to offer people who look up to you, and who want to follow you and want to contribute to the world in their own way through movement and contribution to help others.
With movement, I have found, and people who know this word and have experienced it know what being in a zone feels like. And we can have a very difficult morning or a night or whatever, and when you get on the bike and you start riding, it's kind of like all is well in the world. And it's this feeling of, and don't get me wrong, there's times where you're in a headwind or you're climbing and things are not well in the world. But there's something about when you get on that bike and you start moving, and I can get into a zone in probably 15 minutes now. And I can ride, and my wife has to remind me that we got to eat and drink. I am just completely hypnotized by the sound, the rhythm, the feeling, the wind, all of the senses that you get when you're on a bike. It's an incredible feeling until something goes wrong. And you're like, what's that noise on my bike? Why is my legs not working? I'm like, oh, I got to eat, or, those kind of things. But the movement and the mindset and the emotions, I agree with you. And we're testaments to the fact that the more physically fit we are, the more mentally in tune we are, and the more emotionally satisfied we become. So I don't know if it starts, well, I heard the guy one time say, if you had a choice between going to bed early or working out, what would you choose? He's like, workout, because it is something active, and you will gain more from a half-hour workout than you will from an extra half hour of sleep. So movement is the key, because you're changing something molecularly within your system that releases endorphins, that does so much good for your body. That's my little rant.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I think on that, working out, it's probably going to make you a little bit more tired and prime you for sleep as well. So you probably end up getting better sleep, if you've done a workout. Rather than
depends on how late it is, because then you're pretty fired up after. Then you got to eat. So then, I think we're both athletes too, so we've just been moving our whole lives. And I think depending, might age ourselves, but we rode our bikes to school every day. Like that was just the way we did. So we were always outside. Like back in the day, we left after breakfast and you were just probably home for supper. And my parents didn't really worry about where I was. Like we were just outside, whatever we were doing. We were at somebody's house, but we were just all outside. And so I think that freedom and this movement just was ingrained in us. He was in Holland, so grew up as a farmer, so he was always kind of moving and outside, not and then I think just moving forward, I've been teaching specifically girls physical education, so this idea of moving, especially for girls, is, I don't know, it's been a passion of mine forever. And I also think that if you can get yourself outside, so there's moving inside, but there's, I don't know, for me, there's a benefit to moving outside, because just even having, the sun on you, like I have students probably that don't get an hour of sunlight a day right now. They get driven to school, they're in school, they eat lunch there, they go home. If they don't play a sport outside, then they're inside. So, just being able to be outside and get sunlight, there's enough science out there to to prove what you need to do to feel better. And sunlight would be one. And then I just love being in nature. I mean, it's not like I have to live in the woods, but when you can look and see a mountain, or you can go by a river and you don't always have something in your ears, there's just something about that changes the way you feel. So I don't know, I guess those two little additions for me. We have a faith background. So for us spiritually, there's a lot of prayer that goes into what we do from us or from people around us. And just this belief that, it's a bigger plan than just what we've set out to do. If we're raising all these money for these charities, I'm sure that somebody else is really invested in that too. So it is a village, it's a group, it's people,
Now, her faith is much stronger than mine, by the way, because I still think I can do it myself.
This is part of the journey. This is how this all started as well. But there's a lot of
when my bike breaks and she's like, I'm like, I hope you didn't pray for that.
It's not that flippant. It's not that flippant, but there's a lot of people that are praying for us. Like, not going to sugarcoat it. So, there's this internal belief that there's something bigger than me running the play. So that's just how I see it.
Yeah, beautifully said. Love that. For the listeners today, people who are on a journey to find their purpose, find more meaning in life, whether it be through movements or, mental practices that they're doing, but specifically on the topic of contribution, contributing to something greater than yourself. I think that you both are a testament to that being reality, that being the most effective method to gain that understanding and reach that feeling of purpose. You've talked a lot about it, and I think this whole journey has given you both a lot of purpose and meaning. So I wanted to ask, for people who are looking for more purpose in life, who are, in that constant cycle of working, 9 to 5, which you are both in, especially PL, you have that, 80-hour weeks. What would you say is like the first best step to take for someone who's in that cycle? They're really, really serious about getting more meaning and purpose in life. And perhaps they've thought about volunteering or raising money or helping someone because they realize they haven't helped, been very helpful to people around them or in general. So yeah, what would you say to that person in terms of taking the first step in the context of volunteering and charities?
I can only share my experience of how I made sure I took action. Once I decided I was going to do Cycle 5, the first thing I did was I got my bike painted. And I knew that once it was on my bike, I had to do something. There's no turning back. Then when we talked to the charity, this one gentleman said, hey, in 5 days, we got a leadership. Do you want to come? And I remember in my office saying, if I don't say yes to this, it's not going to happen. So whatever it takes, let's make it happen. And it was those, and it's those, I guess it's striking when the iron's hot. So when someone is serious about, how do I get out of this? And they have these moments of high fluctuations of emotions, because if your emotions are high and you let it sit there and you wait, it'll die down again. You get back into whatever routine you're in. You got to strike when the emotion's high, because logically, it's not something, in my mind, it's not something that people naturally do. Like, giving is, in my opinion, something that has to be done intentionally, because people by default are gatherers, they're protectors, they're providers. They're going to take care of themselves first before they take care of others. And there has to be something that's either taught or something that's done intentionally to change that narrative. So for me, the advice I would have is that if there's a moment in your mind or in a situation or with a person, and you've been thinking about it, and that person provides an opportunity. So let's say you love animals and you're like, I want to volunteer, but I'm busy, blah, and you come across a friend and they say, we really need another volunteer at the SPCA. And your emotions are high, you just say yes. You might regret it and go, shoot, now I got to change this, but you got to say yes to something to get into that habit and really get out of that rut. Otherwise, you're just going to stay there and you're going to look back and go, what the hell? I had all these chances. I never took the risk, and the risk is really minor. The risks are always very small because, I mean, even in business, I tell people, I'm going to say yes now because I can always change my mind. But if I say no, I'll never have the opportunity to go, oh, shoot, maybe I should have. So I am naturally, I joke, I have a big windshield and a small rear view mirror that I look forward all the time. Now, the downside of that is I do a terrible job reflecting on all of my achievements. So I very seldom celebrate what I've accomplished because I always think there's something else I need to pursue. So the people that are around me are kind of like, can we just take a breath and just enjoy what we've done today? Like, why do we have to talk about Monday when it's Friday afternoon and we just had this huge success? I'm like, well, because the success is what we planned for, let's plan for the next one. So pros and cons, but my advice would be when the emotions are high and the opportunity is there, you got to just say yes. Because if you change your mind, you can, but if you say no, you'll never have the opportunity.
Yep.
Fantastic.
I would say for me, I would say there has to be some joy in it to some extent. So I think there's so many good causes out there, and so many people need help that it would be like, well, what do you like doing? And so some people like to be behind the scenes, some like to be out there. So if you could just figure out what you like to do and then just go online or just look in your own community. There's just so many ways, like you said, you do High Rocks, but there's how many runs or walks are there to raise money for something? Like just showing up and paying your entry fee to go on a walk, that is giving. And so I think that is for me, it's important that you can figure out what you might enjoy doing. Because sometimes you do go, and if you end up being in an uncomfortable situation, you won't go back because you haven't found the right fit. And I would just say, yeah, just keep trying. But the littlest things are so helpful. And like I said, that multiplying effect, like you just don't think about it. Who am I if I just show up to this one walk? But usually, somebody, then you talk about it. And then next time somebody's like, oh, I'll join you. Well, that's a multiplier effect in some ways. So I just think, find what you love and then go see who needs the help, because I don't know, there's a ton of help that's needed around everybody's community. So, yeah.
No, couldn't agree more. And, you mentioned, the High Rocks. I've just done a recent High Rocks race and I raised money for mental health charities. Yeah. And like that for me, I love that those High Rocks races. My fiance actually got me into it initially. I wasn't like a fitness race person, but I love fitness. But yeah, she really got me into it, and it's a no-brainer for me. Like if I can purchase a charity ticket and I can raise money, and I have to raise a minimum, and I'm making a contribution and awareness to something, and inspiring people to do fitness too. Like that's a no-brainer. That's exactly what you guys have done, right? Like,
you're doing it anyway.
You're doing it anyway. Like, why not? Yeah. It's all done for you these days as well. The charities, they just make they make all the content for you, and they give you ideas, and they give you the platform. Like it's just, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And when you find people that are like-minded, gosh, it's just so fun. That's why we do in these groups. Like, I don't want to do High Rocks, but thank you. You found your tribe. Like, that's cool. So that's what I mean. Like, there's just so many things that you can do, and you can be behind the scenes, which I think is really valuable. And not everybody thinks that way. But there's a lot of stuff that you can do from home that is helpful. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Philanthropy in action.
Philanthropy in action. And time, treasure, and talents. Love that. Love those. Thanks for sharing those too. I'm sure the listeners will definitely take those on
Yeah.
and hopefully put them into practice.
Mhm. Yeah.
Looking back, on this entire mission so far from 2022,
Mhm.
5 continents, 5 charities, you're almost over halfway. What are you most excited for coming up in the next, towards the end of the 5-year mission and beyond? What are you both most looking forward to
Mm.
or excited for?
No, I'll touch on the first part. I mean, of course, we're looking forward to visiting our charity in Africa, but I have shared with a few people that when these 5 rides are over, I think for me, there's going to be an element of relief because we will then have the opportunity to continue doing what we're doing, but at a completely different cadence. We have a website designer, we have a social media person, we have a philanthropy consultant, we have a project manager. It is like a small business. We do our own fundraising events, we do our own invites, we create our own, it would be nice to go on a ride and raise money for a charity when everything's organized versus us having to do the route planning, the flight planning, like all of that, right? And I say that kind of jokingly because we're in it, because that's just what it takes. But I'm also looking forward to when these 5 years are over. I have no clue. I don't even know what I'm going to do with my business.
Yeah.
Am I going to go back in full time, or am I going to stay part time? The unknowns are big for me, and I've just embraced it. I'm just going to take 1 year at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, the other sacrifice for us is we have 2 kids that are in their university years. They're both athletes. And so we miss a lot of time with them right now. So it's been hard for me as the mom, maybe. Like our daughter goes to school, she's away from home. So she comes home at the end of April and we leave the beginning of June. And so we see her probably 6 to 8 weeks out of the year, unless we go visit. So that's been really hard. So I think we're looking forward to a little bit more flexibility there, that we can, maybe it's not as such a big trip. Maybe it's like a 2-week trip that we can do instead of a 3-month trip. So I think that's one thing that I'm looking forward to. And we've also been pretty candid that even joking with you that, Australia is not one of our continents, but we would love to ride there. So the freedom to just go ride anywhere, because there's so many beautiful places to ride in the world. And on that note, there is a year that, and I don't think it'll be right away, but there is a ride 6 that will be planned across Canada, from coast to coast, that will raise money for a local charity. I've been quite convicted. It's great, again, to raise money for charities, but they are around the world, and we have a lot of need here locally. So there's a bit of a big brainstorming idea for Ride 6 and what charity and how we make that work in North America, which is quite different. Like raising money in Africa, there's just, your dollar goes a lot farther. There's less restrictions in some ways, whereas, you come into a North America or Canada and there's a lot of red tape, just even how you do philanthropy in your own community, or how you help people on the streets or whatever. So I am looking forward to year 6, riding across our own country. I think will be pretty spectacular. Like I said, the Terry Fox ride, they have ridden across country and we couldn't do it because we were doing our ride. So we'll do our own version at some point. So yeah, I think those 2 things for me. I have found my purpose with my work. I know exactly where I am. I know where my best work is done. And so I'm, I am older than him, so maybe I'm farther along in that process. So I'll just try to hang out and watch him go through and be there for him, which has been difficult.
I think my frontal cortex still isn't quite developed yet. They say Midas is 28, maybe mine's 58. I still got a few years left.
Yeah.
You're almost there.
Yeah. So watching him go through it, it's been a challenge for our marriage too, just being home together now that we're both not working. It's probably been one of the hardest years as a couple, just being in our own home, trying to figure out, okay, now what? Like, we don't like this. Like, it's just not good. Which is that next season as you let some of that work go. So there's a lot of things we need to work through still. We have not got it all figured out. Africa is going to present some incredible challenges. And then we got one more after that. So yeah, we still have a lot of learning and figuring out to go. The journey is
Just beginning.
It's it's continuing. But yeah, like in no way have we got it all figured out. And the way we bike pack, people bike pack completely differently. And so there's times where, like when I got sick and we came home, I thought, people get sick all the time when they bike pack. They don't get hospitalized. They don't fly home. Like, what is wrong with us? Like, are we weak? So you can get in that spiral too. So yeah, this is the way we choose to do it. It's working. And we've figured out each pedal stroke. It's not a science, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think, this has been fantastic. I think there's a lot to take and a lot of to unpack from what you've, how you've inspired everyone in this conversation and what you're doing today. So it's been, I really appreciate you, being vulnerable and opening up there on what's going on in Cycle 5 to Thrive and Survive, I should say. and your relationship as a couple, very inspiring. Yeah, fantastic.
Well, we hope we have said that too. What's the other part? It's not our mission statement. It's
Our core values.
Our core values.
Yeah. Well, I think when I started these rides, I'm like, okay, how am I going to get through this in tough times? So knowing what we're doing, which is the mission statement, and then knowing what our core values are, is important to me. So it's be adaptable, be memorable, and make a difference. And a few times where we self-support. So we do a lot of camping and wild camping, and we will stay in hotels when we need to. And we found that as our rides progressed and we were doing a lot of camping, we weren't staying in cities or communities. We're like, well, we're not talking to a lot of people. And then when we were staying in communities and we're staying in hotels, I'm like, but we're not bike packing, like we're not roughing it. But we were talking to a lot of people and people following us and giving small donations. I'm like, okay, so I am, and this is my Dutch brain. I'm like, okay, I am being adaptable and I'm being memorable and I'm making a difference. So completely contrary to my philosophy of roughing it and bike packing it, I wasn't true to the core values of what I thought Cycle 5 should be, which is be memorable, make a difference, and be adaptable. So as our rides have morphed, we're like, it's actually good for us to stay in little communities and campsites and not wild camp, because we're interacting, we're sharing the story, like we're having opportunities to multiply what we're doing, versus finishing a ride and not seeing anybody. Say, man, that was tough. Holy cow! Like we didn't wash for 3 weeks, and like we killed rabbits and like exaggerating, but
we didn't kill rabbits. We don't kill rabbits. People.
But so it's
and also then engaging more in the culture too. So for us, that's how it works for us. But And
the ripple effect of having it, like there's two specific incidences that go beyond the charity work. Like we had a young gentleman from Oregon, Axel, reach out to us, who saw our ride. It's called the European Divide Trail. It's a pretty new route. We were actually the 43rd finisher ever to complete the entire route. It was almost 8,800 kilometers from the very northern part of Norway to the southern tip of Portugal.
Whoa.
And this young guy wanted to be the youngest and fastest to ever ride this route. And he got an autoimmune disease and had his colon removed and lives with a colonoscopy bag now. And he found our videos online, and he reached out to us to figure out how can he use his medical situation to raise awareness, because he now is planning on doing this ride with a colonoscopy bag. And so the Zoom call we had with him and the back and forth we've had and how we did what we're doing, and he's doing the exact same thing now to raise awareness and doing clinics. Like that's something that we would never have a million years imagined that we could inspire a young 23-year-old to pursue something after he's just, I get emotional talking about it. Like that's pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is beautiful. It's sort of entered like the mentorship phase of what you're doing and spreading it and encouraging others to do the same thing, which is part of the goal, right?
And as I say that, like, I would give a shout out to your followers too. Like, if you are like, I want to know more, like, reach out to us. Like we're at a stage in our lives that I think it is our obligation to give back everything that we've learned to people who are starting to look at this, right? So we don't want to take everything we've learned with us. We want to share what we've learned. So the more opportunities we get, like being on your podcast, the more valuable we feel. We're contributing in a different way now, right? So I think that's also very important.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. I have some final bonus wrap-up questions that I love to ask, I should say, if you still have some time.
Yeah, we do.
Wonderful. So number one, you can answer these separately or together, whatever you prefer. But number one, what is your number one guilty pleasure?
Oh, chocolate milk. 100%.
Yeah.
All the time, anywhere. If I was stranded on an island and I was allowed to take one thing with me, it'd be chocolate milk.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm like a salty person, so probably a good bag of we've got some good chips here, Hard Bites. They're Canadian made. They're really, yeah, I'd probably go with that, or some maybe salted caramel. Those are also good. Ice cream. Yeah.
Nice. Love it.
I have a few guilty pleasures, apparently. Sweet and salty.
Sweet and salty. That is good. One book that has changed your life or your lives. So.
Oh.
I wouldn't say it's changed my life, but I've listened to it a couple times. It's called Die with Zero. And it's probably catered to maybe kind of like you know what? I'm not going to put any parameters on the book. It's the title kind of says it all. But it put things kind of in perspective for me. I wouldn't necessarily execute all of the things that they talk about in that book, because some of them I'm like, that's not me or whatever else. But Die with Zero would be one that I would encourage someone who especially looking to get into this philanthropy world. Would be a good book.
Right.
I read a ton. So maybe authors, Mitch Albom, Tuesdays with Maury. He writes some things, and then like historical fiction kind of thing. So Kristen Hanna has been I love strong female characters. But yeah, I read so much. I don't know. Nothing life-changing, but it's life-changing because I will read a lot and not clean the house. There you go.
There you go.
I think
Good lesson.
The one you do have in common is we love listening to Simon Sinek's podcast, A Little Bit of Optimism. And
Trevor Noah, another good one.
Simon Sinek and Trevor Noah are two podcasts that we listen, and they're very positive, kind of inspiring, upbeat type of podcasts.
Yeah, Simon Sinek is a good one.
Yeah.
The biggest life lesson you've learned to date. We've talked about a few of those, but yeah, if there was one you had to put your finger on.
I've had a lot of loss in my life. I lost my mom when I was 27, and my brother actually died at 21 when I was 7 months pregnant with our daughter. And I just remember when my mom passed away, she was, 52. And I said, life is way too short to not live it. And so I really want to live every day. And we joke now, trying to squeeze every ounce of potential out of our kids, out of our time, whatever. And, we're very aware that we're doing these rides now because physically we can. Everybody's always like, oh, you guys will make it to 70 or 80. I'm like, we might not. Like, we're hoping we can finish these rides, but I am very well aware that you could be gone quickly at a young age. And so, yeah, I'm sometimes to a fault. I don't really care. I'm gonna live my life, and drives him a little more crazy. But yeah, I think when you've lost somebody young, it just changes your perspective on what you're chasing. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
I've started to crystallize some of these things. I work very well in kind of these sayings, but this is very true to me, is that action trumps perfection. So I call myself a 90%er because the last 10% just takes way too much work for me, that I can get a lot of stuff done because I don't necessarily focus on getting the last 10% perfect. And it allows me the opportunity to just get a lot of stuff done. And I've been accused of not doing things nicely, but I just get a lot of stuff done.
That's because my list doesn't get done 100%. His stuff gets done often 100%. But if it's coming for me, it's an 80 to 90%.
But I would say yes.
But it gets done.
Life lessons. I have achieved more in my life because I just took action. So the whole cycle 5, I joke, it's my lack of intelligence that's allowed me to do this. Because any smart person would know how much work it would take to cycle across 5 worlds and 5 continents and raise, like, you know, the 5 fives. So the naivety, you know, ignorance is bliss, but action has always paid in spades for me.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Those are some beautiful lessons. Thank you for sharing them. And and obviously you mentioned it before, PL, but where can people reach out to you and follow you both on your journey from now and beyond?
So cycle, then the number 5 to survive. We have a website that has a lot of resources. We have a YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all with cycle, the number 5, and then TO to survive, cycle 5 to survive. And we bring a GoPro with us. We used to bring a drone. I don't anymore. And we get videos produced by our videographer on our trips. And we have a newsletter that goes out with updates and stuff. So we're run like a small business.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, if just even following us, it goes a long way to the multiplier effect. So just following us on Instagram and checking out our website is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always amazing what one share can do. You know?
Absolutely. If you get the right share.
You said the multiplier effect. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, well, obviously we'll make sure to have those links will be in the show description, so everyone, the listeners today can reach out to PL and Kristen and follow them on their Cycle 5 journey, with Africa coming up. So lots to see and lots to follow. So but I just wanted to say to you both, it's been an absolute honor to be able to share this conversation today and hear about the journey on purpose, movement, cycling, charity. It's just, it's very noble and inspiring to see how much you've been able to weave into your life, all different areas. And I think that's why, I've really enjoyed this conversation today. And I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. You're a great host.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
It's been my pleasure. No, I appreciate that. And we'll definitely will have to keep in touch to see how you've gone after Africa and beyond, and maybe have another conversation.
For sure. Awesome. Yeah. And if you ever want to come to BC, we have we're warm showers, so we have rooms. But and if we come to Australia, we'll connect. We'll tell you. We'll look you up.
Please do. Please give me the heads up. Yeah, because we'll definitely connect.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. Everyone listening in today to this conversation, please comment and share the episode wherever you normally do that on this very important conversation that we've had. And I would love to hear your thoughts, and make sure you reach out to PL and Kristen if you feel like you really resonated with and you wanted to say something. Please don't be afraid, and rate the show if you haven't already. Until then, stay wholesome. We'll see you next time.